I always like to start with a little bit of context. And the reason of this video is because I've watched this interview made by the CEO of a company called 45 Drive. And what he did, like he did some type of like live podcast with some of the most well-known content creator in the computer and like tech space, but also like creator which are linked to Linux one way to another. And I think it was a really nice debate, and I was looking at it and I was like, damn, this company is really trying to do with their tool and obviously like, you know, like their vision, they are trying to execute what I've been trying to execute also on my hand with this channel. And really what it's all about, it is about getting rid of, we say like Microsoft. So they use the word like de-microstification. So again, I felt it, like it was a running joke during the podcast, and I was not able to say it here too. But the idea is that they want to get rid of everything which is not open source to give the end user, whether it's, you know, a company or actually like a human being behind the computer, the opportunity to get rid of, I would say, like the lock of those big companies like Microsoft or Adobe, because they use the word dude, I hate this word, de-microstification. Honestly, like it's just getting rid of all the companies that use proprietary software and kind of like lock you in their, like, I would say, like realm, whether it's financial or whether it's just related to the software themselves. And I kind of like this perspective. I think like indirectly, this is what I've been doing with this channel for the last 3 years, because if you look at my experience, I really relaunched, like revived this channel, which was a gaming channel before, toward more like a tech channel. And trying to show that there is alternative to Microsoft when it comes to gaming. And when you look at the channel itself, we are using this website called Social Blade here. The channel, so there is nothing too crazy about it, but I want to show you something which is super interesting. The channel grew like crazy for the last year. So this little curve here shows the number of subscribers on a weekly basis to my content. And you will see that in the same week as I'm recording this video right now, 1 year ago, we were around like 20 subscribers a week, which was already awesome for me, because I knew I was starting this venture alone against the whole world, because gaming on Linux like 2 years, 3 years ago was not what it is right now. But I was still thinking like people will be in my shoe, in my, you know, like way of thinking, where they couldn't just handle what was going on with Windows. And I will talk about that later, but the numbers don't lie. So 1 year ago, we were at 20 subscribers, right? Today, we are at like 100, 200 subscribers a week. So we multiply by 10 the number of weekly sub, right, on this channel. And if you look at the view, it's exactly the same. You're going to see that it's kind of the same story here. We moved from 2,600 video view a week to 27,000 view a week. Again, multiply by 10, a little bit more. And my point there is that a lot of viewers, a lot of users are actually feeling the same way as me. And this channel is just here to prove to the world that you can daily drive Linux, obviously, but you can also game and create content via Linux. And again, like those numbers, they don't lie. So you're going to be like, oh yeah, but 2,000 views a week or even like 20,000 views a week is nothing. Listen, in 1 year, we multiply everything by 10. If I'm able to keep it that way, think about what it's going to be 2 or 3 years from now. Just think about it. So if you look at the numbers themselves, like on a monthly basis, we are around like 110,000 views a month. And this month has not been the best because I come back from forced holidays because I had a second child, and obviously I had to spend time with him and my wife to support them. But now I have more time ahead of me, and I'm planning to continue to create my content. But the whole point is like Linux is growing in terms of popularity when it comes to gaming and content creation. We know that Linux is relatively popular, but it's kind of like growing more and more. And I would say like the most and like first reason people are getting rid of Microsoft, it's actually because of Microsoft. Believe it or not, a lot of users are actually like getting pushed away by Microsoft itself. Whether it's because they kind of like push the user to buy new material. I'm thinking about Windows 11. They also like have more and more like non-attractive like policy when it comes to software decision. I'm thinking about recall, which is literally a spyware pushed on your Microsoft operating system there. And again, I don't even want to go there. Like we had all the patch issue related to the AMD CPU. Like it has been a mess. It has been a big mess with Microsoft. And I think some of the users are just like, hey, is the grass greener elsewhere? And obviously Linux is not perfect. So Linux is already far away from being perfect. And this is why also my channel, I believe, kind of like bring value to most of the users. It's because when you look at the channel, there is video which have been like super successful because I try to explain in a really simple way how to transform like your operating system into a gaming like more friendly platform, because nowadays Linux does run the game pretty well out of the box. However, there is still some tweaks that need to be done. There is still some, you know, like little things that need to be done depending on your distro, depending on your hardware. And this is really what I'm trying to get into with all the tutorial I've been pushing those days. And honestly, like I think I'm doing my part of the job there. So now let's get a little bit further. When it comes to gaming, as I mentioned earlier, I do believe like I've done my part, and I proved many times that you can run the game as good and sometimes better on Linux than on Windows. Here, it's a fact. However, when you think about gaming on Linux, there is really like two hurdles you're gonna have to get through. And the first one is hardware. I know like those days I've been talking a lot about it because I kind of realize how hardware is important when it comes to switching to Linux. And I'm not talking only about the hardware you own, but the hardware in general. And, you know, the first example will be the case of NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, if you think about it, from the last, like I would say, like 3 years, it went from unbearable, like bad, okay, like really bad experience, to almost good experience. I would say almost like great experience. You can see that when the manufacturer start to jump in, they can change the whole landscape for Linux. So NVIDIA, obviously, because of their AI, they had a real like financial like outcome, financial like benefits, I would say, to jump into Linux, because most of their AI run on Linux. But the gamer indirectly benefited from it, and they are still benefiting from here. So it's not perfect, obviously, but the experience right now, compared to what it was like even 6 months ago, it's night and day. And what it shows that a new user who want to come to Linux, if he owns hardware which is not supported, is gonna have an experience which is not good or not, I would say, like just bad, right? And this is why hardware at this level is really important. So I don't want to get too deep into it, but this is just the main idea, is that this could be a barrier to entry for you to daily drive Linux. It's not a Linux issue, really. It's a manufacturer issue. And from a user standpoint, what you would say is that, well, me, I don't care if it's X or Y issue. I just want it to work, and it would be fair, right? But this is the situation you are in when you jump into this world. So this is the first thing. And I think the second one, obviously, is related to knowledge. Knowledge is key when you move from Windows to Linux. And when I'm talking about knowledge is like, obviously like willing to learn something new, but also like knowledge as where do I find the information, right? Like how can I find it? Who already digs the path for me? Because when you think about hardware, right now, I've been gaming on Linux for like 3 years, okay? Like that's all I do. All I do. No, that's not all I do, but like with my PC, I've been gaming a lot on Linux. I would say 99.9% of the game I wanted to play, they were working. But as a new user, how do I find the information to make it work? How do I find the information to just know that maybe 99% of my game are actually working? And so this education part is so important. And you will understand that the education part is obviously related to the hardware. There is a synergy between both of them because installing Linux on this type of hardware, for example, NVIDIA versus another type of hardware is different. It's totally different. And here, I feel like this is more my role here to try via my channel and my content to give a value added here. Be like, okay, I'm going to try to provide the best knowledge for you guys to not have to go through all the hassle I've been through and kind of like give you on a plate what could be the actual like experience on Linux. So this is just for gaming. Now, if you move toward content creation, so content creation, it's another piece of my content here because each time I do some tests, whether it's on a distro or some type of hardware, I always try to see it from two perspectives. Is whatever Linux distro, whatever Linux package, whatever Linux software, or even hardware relevant to gaming or content creation in the Linux world? And here, guess what? The same barrier to entry will be hardware. The same reason, okay, manufacturer, which are like willing or not willing to adapt their hardware to Linux. An example, I'm going to give names there, Avermedia. Okay, like this is my experience with capture card. I own 4 capture cards from Avermedia. Most of them, they are not supported on Linux. Like they wouldn't even run. The other one, there is hack to make them work. I'm actually recording right now everything under Linux. Like everything here in my house, outside of the laptop of my wife, is running on Linux. Everything. So I have a data center, home lab, like I would call it a data center. It's not really a data center, but there is a lot of computer down there to run a lot of my, I would say like stuff. One day, I think I'm going to really dig into that because this is something I would like to share with you guys. I have my streaming PC there, which is actually recording the content as I'm speaking in 4K with everything activated. Like you can tell, like the quality of the video is pretty neat. And I have my PC right now, which is also running Linux. I'm going to show you there. Boom. We are running Arch, by the way. Voilà, like this is a custom version of Arch based on the repo of CachyOS because I really like this distro. But my point is that there is a way to make it work. However, if you jump from Windows streaming PC and you switch it to Linux, you're gonna have ton of like situation where your hardware is not compatible. And the funny part about that is the fact that Avermedia actually a line of hardware which work perfectly on Linux. But guess what? The way they market it is toward the pro. So 2 of my cards, which are actually not working at all, there is a pro version. They overprice. They think the price is multiplied by 3 or 4. And it's exactly the same chip. It's the same card without RGB, but it's the same card. And for those cards, they provide the Linux driver. But if you don't buy the high price one, well, you don't have access to it. And this is the world we are living in. It's not a Linux issue, really. It's a manufacturer issue, in my opinion. And then when you go on the side of the workflow, so here it's a different approach. It's more about the workflow rather than the knowledge. I think here the workflow, the way it's done on Linux, it can be done the same way as on Windows. Okay, like it can be done at the same way as on Windows. It just can't be done this way. And you're gonna be like, why? Why the workflow cannot be done? So sometimes it's a software limitation, and sometimes, so I'm thinking about, for example, like if you are doing Adobe, well, Adobe does not exist on Linux. And sometimes it's related to the license. Okay, so license, for example, AAC, codec, they are part of the Microsoft license. I'm talking about that, you will see why. So when you buy Microsoft Windows, all the software within Windows, they can use them. But on Linux, the license is not there. And so if you take, DaVinci Resolve, if they want to use this license, they're going to have to pay to use it in the Linux realm. So it's a licensed play. If you run DaVinci Resolve on Linux, well, guess what? You won't have AAC. Is it a game breaker? Not at all. Like it's not at all. But for a new user that comes from Windows and use AAC and doesn't want to change the workflow, just a tad bit, it's gonna be a no, right? It's gonna be a no-go. They're gonna be like, no, Linux sucks, and it's fair. Honestly, it's fair. I think I've watched, what was his name? Craft Computing, channel owner. I don't know his first name. I'm really bad because my French brain sometimes has a really hard time to remember a first name in English, and I apologize for that. But the truth is, so Craft Computing, he literally hit the wall there. And he was like, it will take me to edit my video like 4 hours more or 3 hours more and make the workflow tedious. And he's partially right, partially wrong. Like, it's not a game where, you are right, you are wrong. But if you think that you're gonna do the same workflow, exactly the same, from Windows to Linux, it's not going to happen. You're gonna have to adapt a little bit, at least as it is in this state. The question now you understand really what it's all about. The question is, can you run Linux? Okay, this is a real question, right? The question at $1 million. I believe you can. Okay, I believe you can run it as a daily driver, but you're gonna have to accept the fact that there is limitation. And I think the real push is not going to come from the user themselves, because when you think about the users themselves, I think the gap between using Windows or Mac and transitioning to Linux, as it is right now, is too big. It is way too big. It requires the user way too much effort to just jump. So some of us are going to do it because they're going to find my channel, for example, and they're going to be like, whoa, so it's that simple to optimize Linux, boom. Or, wow, I didn't have to, distro up like 25 times before launching a game and not having an issue. If you watch my video, you know what distro you are supposed to get. You know how to optimize the kernel. You know how to install NVIDIA driver. You know how to install DaVinci Resolve. You know how to install like Linux Mint or CachyOS. Like, there is a lot of like content out there destined to help you. But even if I'm doing like one video a day, those days, like there is so much help I need to provide for, a normal user which doesn't have a PhD in computer technology to just jump. And I think right now the gap is just too big, because when you're on Windows, believe it or not, you just plug and play and it works. Whether you don't like Windows, whether you don't like Mac or Apple or Microsoft, this is the truth as it is right now. The good news is like this gap, the same gap here, is becoming smaller by the day. I would say it is getting easier and easier each day after each day. Like this is like a fact. So why? Why is it getting smaller? It's getting smaller because big companies start to feel, in my opinion, the luck of the other one, like Microsoft or Google or whatever, right? And they want to make sure that they provide service of products that can exist without the realm of Microsoft or Google or whatever company which have closed software. So the one I think about right now is Valve. The reason we are gaming right now on Linux is because of Valve. They were able to push enough chips on the table, like enough money on the table, to already give a big push to Proton to support their product, the Steam Deck. Okay, like this is a big push in my opinion. Like this is the demonstration A plus B equals C, 1 plus 1 equals 2, that it is possible. Is it perfect? It's not perfect. Okay, this is also my role, to show it to you guys. For example, with NVIDIA, I showed that there is a problem with the DirectX 12 games. I hope they're gonna fix it. But I had to push that out, not only for my viewer, but also for those companies to be like, hey, we have a problem. I'm not that important, obviously. But if a lot of viewers watch my video and be like, oh, I agree with Max, we have a problem, and start to talk about it on forum, start to talk about it on Reddit, start to talk about it in different places, it's going to come to the ear of the dev and they're going to do something about it. I think that we are in this position where now, because the company, they want to get rid of this, and because the users, they want to get rid of this too, we could have a synergy there where we could create a better world of computing for everyone. So Valve is there. Second one, 45 Drive there. So it's a Canadian company. I'm going to put the link of the podcast and their concept of de-microstification, whatever. Okay, like getting rid of Windows and more getting rid of the I will say like the lock of the closed source software operating system, like at every scale, like from like a professional standpoint, work standpoint, but also like from a user standpoint, more oriented toward gaming or whatever you do with your PC. So looking at this, I think it is really positive. Like we are eating the right way there. I think we are in a phase right now. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we are in a phase right now where we're gonna be in a world where open source become more and more prevalent for a lot of reasons. Okay, and like a lot of reasons. Like this digital world is changing in a way where the only way out is gonna be open source. And so, to come back to the actual question, which was, can you daily drive Linux? I would say like right now you can do it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to continue to go in that direction and try to share as many tips and any things to really help your workflow or help gaming on Linux. But I think like not only you're going to have the support of content creator like me, but you're going to also have the support of big company, right? Which are going to switch in this realm. And this is really promising, chat. Like I'm really like enthusiastic about the overall situation, because now it's not the game of like, people like us, we are like in our little office there trying to spread the word. Now it's more like big company, which are like, they have the chips, they have the money to put themselves where their mouth is, right? So this is pretty optimistic, I would say, and also like realistic, but we're gonna get there. Guys, I hope you like this video and I hope you learned something. But the good news is, if you can daily drive Linux today, there is a high chance that people like me and big company around, they're gonna do their best for you to daily drive it and enjoy an open source experience on your computer. Guys, thank you very much for watching and see you in another video. Again, I want to thank all the Patreon members, the YouTube member, everybody who is helping me to continue on this endeavor. Guys, thanks a lot. See you in the next one. And as always, Bisous, bisous.